Hey guys, this video right here is of a girl having a reaction after taking a pre-workout supplement. Yep, so today's conversation is all about protein powders and supplements. Are they actually beneficial to us? Are they safe? Should we be spending our money on them? Or are they a waste of money? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to Consultation Room Podcast.
Welcome back. Now, whether you're chasing gains or trying to recover faster from your workouts or just trying to hit your daily protein goal, protein powders and supplements are everywhere you go. But how do you know what's actually worth your scoop? In today's episode, we are getting into the science behind protein powders and popular supplements like creatine. Do you really need them? Or are you just paying for expensive pee? Let's find out. As usual, we always go into what exactly we're talking about. So, Steph, what exactly are protein powders? What's the definition of protein powders?
So, to get into it, protein powders are basically nutritional supplements that may help build muscles, repair tissue, and make enzymes and hormones. So, protein powders are basically supplements that contain proteins. And this is what protein does. It helps with repairing tissue, building muscles, and making enzymes and hormones. So, protein powders, in essence, some people take it to help them tone their muscle, or basically help them with weight management. People use it for various things, and it comes in various forms as well, like the shakes or protein bars. But we'll get into it. When it comes to protein powders, we have different types of protein powders as well, which we may get into it. And we have different supplements as well, which Trudy mentioned. But all in all, protein powders are just supplements that contain protein to help with muscle building, to help with tissue repairs, to help with weight management. And they could also help with recovery of if you have sore muscles and stuff. But these are basically that's basically the basic definition of protein powders. So speaking of protein powders and its supplements, what are the different types there?
So there is different protein powders now. I think back in the day there was just the whey protein powder. But and that is normally extracted from milk. So whey protein is normally from milk, and if I'm not wrong, it's normally the liquid after you've made cheese that is normally turned into whey protein, and that's what people use as a protein supplement. So there is that. There is also casein. Casein is also from milk. So again, this is another form of protein powder. And then there is protein powders from eggs as well now. So, again, I think that the protein from the egg is extracted and made into fine powder, and that is what is used as protein powder. And for the vegans, great news, there is plant-based protein powder. And these are this is protein powder from from things like soybeans, rice, peas, potatoes, and even hemp. So these are the most common protein powders there is available. I mean, at this moment, I don't know about you, Steph, but I feel like there's even more protein powders coming. There's probably someone in a lab creating a protein powder, because there's different protein powders coming up every single day. But these are some of the most common protein powders. And as you said, Steph, it is all about building muscle. And even if it's not for the gym, I know we've mentioned the gym as soon as we started, but even if it's not for the gym, there is other uses for protein powders. People don't just take protein powders for the gym. There's other uses that people use protein powders for.
Yes.
So speaking of, what are the uses that someone could be using a protein powder for?
Yeah, I think to get into the use, I just want to explain something. So when it comes to using protein powders, as Trina mentioned, we could use it to build muscles and stuff. But before someone takes it, they may look at their nutritional status and feel like they need to take protein because they're lacking, like their nutrient is like their food is lacking is lacking protein, so that may warrant them to use a protein powder. But we shouldn't confuse it where we actually use protein powders to replace our meal. It should literally just like fill in gaps. So that would be a reason why somebody may use like protein powders. They just feel like maybe they're lacking in like protein. They're not eating enough protein. Yes. So that would be and like sometimes because protein plays a role in a lot of we've already said it, a lot of like muscles and stuff. So if someone feels like maybe they look a bit lean, like they're going through some muscle loss or something, then you may find out that they may like go with protein powders and protein supplements. Also, there are other uses, as Trina mentioned. It's not all about muscle building and stuff. Like protein plays a role in like a lot of things when it comes to the body. It literally plays a role in like building our body cells and like the DNA and stuff, repairing tissues, so many things. So when it comes to its uses, it can be used for a lot of things, especially like, let's say for instance, someone with like hair thinning or hair loss or something, they may opt to go for protein supplements because protein supplements play as I said, they play a key role in like building things. So if you're shedding a lot of like hair or your hair is brittle, you may opt for like protein supplements. It has also been used for like, let's say for instance you have like brittle nails or skin issues. Protein has been known to show that it actually helps repair your nails and your skin issues. So let's say for instance if your nail is becoming dry or brittle or flaky and you're more prone to rashes, protein supplements can help with that. And also protein plays a role in let's say in water balance, fluid balance and retention in our body. So if like you have severe protein deficiency, it can lead to like edema. So if someone has like swelling in their legs or something, if it may be because maybe they're lacking some protein. So someone might take protein supplements just to help with this balance. And even when it comes to let's say healing, like for instance you've hurt yourself or you have some injuries or something, protein has been known to help like to accelerate fast healing and stuff, and it basically helps with, let's say for instance someone is in the sports or something or going to the gym or something and they hurt themselves, they're known to take protein supplements because it helps with like cuts and bruises or injuries that are taking longer to heal. So they may want to opt for like protein supplements, but these are like the main reasons or some of the uses that some people use protein powders, but the main one is mostly for like muscle growth, as everybody knows. But apart from muscle growth, there are other uses which I've mentioned, like the nails and hair and so forth. But is there any other uses for protein supplements?
No, you've actually mentioned all of them, all the ones I can think of. So, as you said, because of of it being what is the body needs for muscle building, anything or any conditions where there might be muscle wastage, you will probably need some protein. So even sometimes when you have like a wound that's not healing, or anything that's not healing for a while, the doctors might actually ask or basically recommend protein intake. So you might maybe go for like protein powders and things like that, because the body needs that to be able to heal. So it's just your body basically to be able to function properly, your body needs protein. So when your body is not functioning properly, and maybe there's a low protein intake, or that you're not having enough protein, that might be something that the doctors might recommend that you do, just increase your protein intake. But no, you've mentioned all of them.
That's right. Brilliant. But speaking of like speaking to doctors and stuff, which warrants us that like not everybody can actually take like protein supplements, right? Because as we said, protein plays a lot of role in our body. So clearly there's certain groups of people that they shouldn't be using protein supplements. So do you mind just going into some of them?
So to start with, when it comes to the protein powders that there is available for you to buy, there is more than just protein in this protein powder. So in a scoop of protein powder, there's normally about 10 to 30 grams of protein, but there is other things, as well in the protein powders. They've got, a lot of them actually have a lot of sugars. A lot of them might have even nutrients, just extra nutrients. Some of them might have just extra things that will probably not be what you need. So even if it says organic protein powder, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the healthiest version for you, or it's the healthiest way of you supplementing for protein. So what I normally say is, if you are considering protein powder for muscle building, let's say in the gym, speak to your doctors first. Just make sure you're healthy. Make sure you go for that full MOT. Just make sure you don't have any conditions. Because if you have things like, say, if you have, say, diabetes, I would not recommend taking something like protein powder, especially when there's high there's high amounts of sugar in the protein, in the protein powder. So if you have diabetes, that might not be suitable for you. Also, if you have any other conditions that could maybe I suppose your medication or anything like that could interact with the protein powder, I would highly recommend that you don't take it, and speak to your doctors. So as I said, there might be a lot of nutrients, a lot of just additives and things like that. So if they say there's a lot more salt, for instance, in the protein powder, or a lot more of the any salt, not necessarily just iodized salt, but any salt in the protein powder that could elevate your blood pressure levels, then of course this is probably not going to be best for you, and you shouldn't be taking it. So conditions like that, I would very, very strongly suggest that you speak to your doctors. And please read the labels carefully, just to see what there is in some of these protein powders. So these are some of the groups I would definitely not recommend taking excessive protein. Even, people who are like pregnant women. Pregnant women, I would not suggest or recommend that you take protein powders. Again, because if there is anything in there that is of excess that you need, that could harm not just yourself, but it could also harm the baby. So people who have certain conditions, if you have any specific conditions, speak to your doctors first before you get on any protein powders. But I would also recommend that if you are not doing any activity, any strenuous activity, you're not going to the gym, you're not doing any resistance, say weightlifting or any resistance activity, maybe a protein powder is not for you. So if you're just going to the gym and you're just running cardio, you're not necessarily trying to build muscle as such. So you're basically taking in more protein that you actually need. And this will just sort of like be a build up, or literally, let's be honest, money down the toilet, because you're going to put, the protein. So, if you don't need the protein, I would not recommend that you take excessive protein powder. And also, if it's just a thing you want to try, listen, it might not be good for you. I don't know if you have seen this this video that's been going around on social media. This girl tried, I think it's called pre-workout, this supplement. And it was for the first time she tried it, and she was itching so badly, and everyone was like, why did she try it? What is going on? What's going on with this girl? You know, some of these side effects can actually happen. So if you don't need it, and at this point, honestly, I don't know what exercise she was doing. Maybe she was just going on a treadmill or whatever, but maybe she didn't need it. Maybe that's even your body telling you that you're giving me something that maybe I don't actually need, or I've got excess of. So by all means, if you don't need excess protein, don't take protein powders. Remember, when it comes to working out, you're taking protein powders to help build more muscle, because normally it's after a workout. My rule of thumb is carbs before gym, protein after gym. So you need the carbs to convert into glucose, which will give you a boost of energy for you to go to the gym. And then after that, because you've worked out and you're trying to build more muscle, and you know your muscles are a little bit sort of like almost like awake, then you need to replace the protein to be able to build the muscle. So that's my rule of thumb. But you know, if you are taking it as a supplement, if you're just taking it, and I think I see this a lot where girls and boys just, you know, take a scoop in, you know, in their gym, whatever, the protein shakers, whatever, and then they just add their milk and they're like, this is my breakfast. That is not correct. That is not how it should be. You should not be using it, as we said at the beginning, you should not be using it to replace a meal. This is not a meal replacement supplement. No, this is only supposed to be used for what it actually says, which is protein building, as a protein, almost like an enhancer of of protein in the body. So if you need that extra protein, that's the only time I would recommend that you take it. Otherwise, I would highly suggest that maybe you speak to the doctors about something else. If you're looking for something else, like a meal replacement or anything like that, maybe this is not for you. Is there anything you want to add?
Especially when you said the video going out about the girl that experienced some reaction from it. So it just warrants us that, like, you know, before you take a protein supplement or powder, do read the label, because most of these protein powders include dairy. They especially like the whey one and the casein one. They also contain soy, eggs, and nuts. So if you're allergic, especially if you have like lactose intolerance and stuff, obviously it's gonna trigger a reaction. So please be careful
100%.
and read the labels. But so there are a couple of groups of patients as well that I want to add in there before they start taking any protein powders or supplements. They need to be careful. So people with like kidney issues, they need to be very careful, because high protein intake can actually put extra strain on kidneys. Exactly. So those with like existing kidney problems may need to like limit protein to prevent further damage. So please, if you have any chronic kidney disease or any kidney issues going on, please speak to a doctor before taking any protein powders or supplements. Again, people with like liver disease, because like the kidneys, liver plays a role in processing protein. So any excess intake might worsen liver function or cause complications in certain liver diseases or liver conditions. So please be careful. I mean, Trudy has already mentioned like pregnant ladies, but also breastfeeding women as well. Please, you don't want to go for protein supplements, because again, they contain other ingredients such as like caffeine, such as herbs or stimulants. So please be careful. It's not safe during
and
pregnancy.
Also just excessive of that protein, you know, will probably present in milk as well, isn't it? That's into the baby.
Exactly. So please, don't go for it. Another group of people that we didn't mention, I would say children and teens. Because these have been advertised so much, and I feel like everybody is
Yes.
into like building their
Everyone's jumping on
muscles.
it.
Exactly. Like everybody wants to build their muscles. They want that toned body. Please, when it comes to
Mhm.
children and teens, be careful. Like kids and
Yes.
teens don't really typically needs like supplements if they're eating well.
Yes.
If over
Hmm.
supplementing can actually throw off like their natural growth and nutrient balance. So before
Yes.
any child or teen think of using a protein powder, please speak to your parents and speak to a doctor first, or your
I don't know why
pediatrician,
children
please.
are using protein powders, but you know
Exactly.
what? Actually, I was having this conversation at work today because I knew we were doing this episode, and I asked the girls. Just I went around and I asked all the
Yeah.
girls who, unfortunately, it was just girls today as dispensers. So we were going around and just talking about protein powder. So
Yeah.
what I asked them is, would you use a protein powder? Have you ever considered a protein powder? Why would you? Why would you not? So one of them said, I don't really know much about them. My son
Yeah.
uses them. Her son is 15. My son
Yeah.
wanted to use it. And what I did is
Yeah.
I asked my husband to look into it just to make sure everything was okay. And my
Yeah.
husband looked into it and he gave you a thumbs up. So we're good. But she knows nothing about it. And then another
Yeah.
girl said, I've never really thought to use it. So I don't, it's not really something I want to use. And then another girl actually said, it's not really for women, it's for men. So there's all these ideas of who can and
Yeah.
who cannot
If
use
we're gonna,
it.
yeah.
What I'd say is, whether you're considering it, whether you're a man or woman, and
Yeah.
you're considering a protein powder,
Yeah.
just make sure you know your health status to start
That's
with.
it.
Make sure you don't have any underlying conditions, because sometimes we don't actually know these things. Let's be honest. Sometimes you don't even know when you have things like even high cholesterol, high blood
Yep.
pressure. You don't know
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
So make sure you check everything.
Exactly.
We do have health checks in pharmacy now. I think up to a certain age, but you can always speak to pharmacists and just say, look, I want to start taking my whey protein. Can you just check for my blood pressure
That's it.
and weight, height,
Yeah.
BMI, all of these things, just to know where you stand before you jump onto these things.
Exactly.
Because from that conversation I had today, my conclusion was people are not very knowledgeable about protein
These
powders.
things, no.
But if someone was to say to you, you need to drink this whilst you're going to the gym because it'll help you build your muscle, you'll just go ahead and drink it, but you don't actually even know much about it.
True. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah.
Education is key, honestly.
It's key. Yeah. So true. Like people are so focused on like building muscles and stuff. Like we are all on this healthy journey, yeah. Like we all are. We all want that that body. But
summer is
please
around
be
the corner.
careful.
We know like summer is literally a few months away.
Exactly.
We're all trying to get the summer body.
Exactly. But please be careful. Like as Trudy mentioned, like I do not know much about protein and powders and supplements as well. Well, I do know a little, but I was always on the fence of like taking them because I just thought clearly if I'm eating like a good balanced diet, I don't need it, And then when you look at the ingredients, as we mentioned, like some of these like protein bars and stuff, they contain a lot of sugar. So I just didn't want to
a lot of sugar, a lot of calories as well.
Exactly. So I just didn't want to go through that route as well. And like you mentioned earlier before as well, some people are so obsessed with like let me put some people all have like eating disorders and stuff, so they become obsessed with like protein powders and protein bars and stuff. They basically replace their meal, and I don't want to go through that route.
We know as well. I don't know about you, but I bump into people all the time. They're like, oh, how much protein is in that bar?
Exactly.
Yeah, 6. Oh yeah, I'll take it. It's like they're so obsessed with numbers.
Exactly. I just couldn't go down that road. Like people get too obsessed. Yeah, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take this, and I feel like they basically have eating disorders because they get so obsessed with it that they're not eating properly, and they're just relying on this protein shake or protein powder, which is not food.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think
please,
relying on protein
yeah,
shakes and protein powders and protein bars as a
yeah,
meal replacement is where you go wrong.
exactly.
And I think what's happened is people have relied so much on this whole
Mm,
protein, they're on this protein journey
journey.
that, I've had my, I don't know, 10 grams of protein
Mm,
for breakfast, or that you forget you actually need other sources of nutrients as well. You need your
exactly.
carbs, okay?
Thank you.
Don't just overlook your carbs. You need your carbs and you need your healthy fats as well.
Yeah,
So protein is good, but other sources of nutrients are also just as good, and
yeah.
your body needs them as well.
Just needs to be balanced, like basics, as we
Mm,
know, balanced diet,
yeah,
eat
yeah,
a bit of
100%.
everything. Yeah, not excessive, but a bit of
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, that's it.
I
You
was
did.
reading on
Mm-hmm.
something, actually, whilst we're on this topic, I was reading
Yeah.
on the risks of, say, excessive protein powder and who
Mm,
shouldn't take it, who should take it. There isn't as much research. I don't know about you, Steph, but I didn't find
mm,
as much research as
mm,
to, the benefits and risks. I mean, we know the
mm.
benefits, we know the
Yeah.
benefits of protein, but these
Yes.
protein powders, excessive use of it, especially people
Yeah.
who use them every day, people who work
Mm,
out 5 days a week
hmm,
and they use protein powders every
mm.
single day. And let's be honest, there's people who actually work out 3-4 times in a day.
Yeah.
Okay, there's this guy who's going around on, is going viral on socials. We know him. I'm not going to mention names. And I think he does like maybe 2 workouts or 3 workouts
Yeah.
a day. And he does this 5 days a week. So, of course, he's going to be, drinking a lot of these smoothies or this, protein
Mm.
powders during these times in a day and during these times in the week.
Yeah.
And that is collectively, that's a lot of protein.
Protein. Exactly.
That's too much protein. As I
Mm.
said, there's not enough evidence as to what the long-term risks of
Mm.
excessive protein is, but you don't want to overdo it. Even
Yes.
if you take protein powders, even if you use protein powders, for instance, I would not recommend that you do that excessively.
Mm.
Do everything in moderation. That's
Exactly.
my
Moderation is
that's
key.
my go-to. Like, just
Yeah.
do everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough. Listen, I'm gonna hold my hand up here. I am not, I'm not a
Yeah.
nutritionist, and we're not speaking as nutritionists here.
No.
We're not speaking as health experts in that, area,
Mm.
but we're just speaking as healthcare professionals.
Professionals.
If you
That's
came to
it.
us and you have certain conditions and maybe you don't even know your health
Mm.
status, what is the advice we'd give you?
Yeah.
Because I think it's very, very important for people to
Yeah.
do that in moderation, especially if you work out that many
Mm-hmm.
times in a day and that many times in a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you should, as you already said, like the body, like as I would say it, the body has like requirement for protein. So if you reach that requirement,
Yes.
what's it gonna do with that excess?
Yes.
It's not gonna
That's
do
it.
anything extra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just
Yes.
go with the
Exactly.
requirement that you need. Don't go overboard.
Yes.
So as Trudy mentioned,
100%.
moderation is
100%.
key.
Also, you say that, Steph, and I think that brings a very important point, which is it's very important for people to actually know how much protein you need, because
Yes.
how much protein actually, Steph, that you need is very different from how much protein that I
Yes.
need, because we have different, we do
Body
different things in a day, and also our body weight is different.
Exactly.
So normally it's grams per weight. So I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's about 10 or 15 grams per kilo per person. So, maybe not, because that's quite a lot. But yeah, or microgram. Anyway, but it's per kilo that you would have the amount of protein for. So however much you weigh, you will need a specific number of protein per day. And then however much someone else weighs, they will need a specific number of protein. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, is a little bit more for men. So maybe about 10 grams more for men. So what I'm trying to say is it's very important not to also think this person is taking 2 scoops of that, I should also take 2 scoops of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't equate like that.
No.
How much protein you'll need is very different from how much I'll need. It's very different from how much someone else needs. So that is very, very important as well.
True. Let's start talking about like some myths earlier on, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because there is a lot of myths out there about these protein powders and supplements, which I thought is quite
Yes.
interesting. So I think one of them, which I'm not sure you mentioned, like having protein supplements will instantly like give you like muscles and like bulk you
Hmm.
up and stuff. No,
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 no. You
as we
need to work
mentioned,
out. If you need the
exactly.
muscle,
Hmm.
definitely need to work out.
Work out.
Not just working, you need to lift weight. You need to do the
Yes.
resistance exercise. So anything that
Hmm.
sort of gives that a resistance, which is normally weightlifting, that
Yeah,
is what's going to give you muscle.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also like one where they say more protein equals more muscles. That's why some what which we've already mentioned. That's why most people have like the protein every day. But I just wanted to add on to
Yeah.
like what Trudy was saying when it comes to like the requirement for each person. So yes, each person's body type is different and stuff. So please,
Yeah.
as she mentioned, like work out how much protein you need because
Mm.
for I think a healthy individual, we all need about 10% to 35% of protein
Mm.
like that's how much protein we need in like a person's daily calories. It's just like 10 to
Yeah.
35% of protein. So do work out, if you don't know this, talk to like a nutritionist or or a dietitian. I think they'll be able to help
Yeah.
you with that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
please do not be going for what your friend is going for just because like your friend is having three
Mm-hmm.
scoops, you go for three scoops, or you think that more protein equals more muscle, so you're gonna be having 5 scoops every day. Please, no. Make
That's
sure
it.
you hit that optimal daily goals. Don't go beyond that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and speaking of like building muscles as well, there is this misconception out there that like you cannot build like muscles without taking like these protein supplements, which is false. There are
No,
loads
it's
of
not
people
true.
out there exactly like building muscles and stuff
Yes,
without actually opting for these protein supplements. But as we said, protein supplements is basically to fill in the gaps. It's not to
it
actually
is.
replace these things. It's just giving you a little boost. You can still do the
Yes.
hard work, going to the gym, eating
Mm-hmm.
whole foods, all of
Yes.
that to help you build that muscles that you need. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
um mhm,
One thing you
mhm,
mentioned is actually quite important, which is
mm,
how much protein an individual needs.
yeah.
As I said, it's a little bit more for men than it is for women, and I think I did write it down just to
Mhm,
because I did research on it. I think it's
mm,
0.75 gram per kilo. So
mm,
however much you weigh, then it's 0.75 gram of protein
mm,
per however kilos you weigh. But
yeah.
again, these could vary. So if you already have enough protein, this number might be different
Mm,
from how much protein you actually need to
yeah.
ingest. So this is just, I suppose, a guidance, but it's not supposed to be what you go for,
Yeah.
especially if you haven't spoken to a healthcare provider. But I think that is a point I think I can't drive or emphasize enough, which is it's
Yes.
very important to know how much protein you actually need,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times, and I feel like this happens to a lot
Yeah.
of people, where people are eating more protein than they actually
Mm,
need.
yes.
And
Yes.
what's going on, as you said, what's going to happen is there's that strain on the kidneys and the liver. You're just going to make you're going to make your organs work harder than they should. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to cause other complications. So I think that is very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Is there any other myths or misconception that you've come across?
I think the main one was that, which is,
Yeah.
as long as I take my protein powders, I'm good. I'm going to be building muscle, which,
Mm.
as we have said, that is not really
Mm-hmm.
true. I don't really hear a lot of myths when it comes to protein powder. It's just people having this idea that this is like the magic powder that's just gonna, ensure that I wake up and I'm ready to go to the gym. And no, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily that. It's not what gives you the drive to go to the gym. No, no, no. That's all you.
No.
Once you have the drive, you can go to the gym, or when you come back,
Yeah.
you can always, especially depending on what you've done, you can
Yeah.
always have the protein powder. But no, I've not had any other myths actually.
Mm. Same. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I'd like to just touch on something, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
When we had our finale episode of
Yeah.
season 1, there was a question
Mm.
that we got from one of our audience.
Yeah.
And the question was, I take creatine to increase my strength.
Yeah.
Are there any negatives to taking it for years? So we have talked about protein powders, but
Yes.
creatine is slightly different. So again, as we said, and I need to keep saying this. I am not a nutritionist. I am not an expert in, in nutrition. So I can only go by the science that we know. And when someone comes to me with 2 very shiny tubs of protein powder and says, what do you think? I can just give them my honest opinion and my honest take as a healthcare professional. But again, I am not a nutritionist, and I'm sure you're not a nutritionist as well, Steph, to give that kind of professional advice. But we can only give our take on things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So creatine, people have been taking creatine.
Yes.
What
Creatine
is
is
creatine?
actually a natural compound found in our body. Mostly it's found in our muscles, and it's found in foods like red meat and fish. It actually plays a key role in producing energy during high intensity short duration activities like lifting weights or sprinting. So creatinine does a lot when it comes to like the body. So when it comes to people taking creatinine, they actually take it to increase like strength, power, and muscle mass. It helps with like high intensity training. That's what most people take it for. It can also be used for like if you want to recover fast, or even let's say for instance you have some injury or something and you just need some quick recovery. It's used in that. So that question about like you use it every day and stuff, I think we did give our input as to we did give a brief answer to that, which again is, as we said, creatinine is a natural compound. So if you're a healthy individual, taking it every day should not harm you, because just like the protein, if you are a healthy individual, it's fine. But if you have any kidney issues, that's where the issue lies, because it's going to put a lot of strain on the kidneys. So taking it every day will not be helpful to your kidneys. But generally speaking, I think they are safe for individuals with no conditions or any underlying ailment. But that is our simple take on it.
I beg to differ slightly. So I would say creatine would be best for someone who doesn't, as I said, the amount of creatine in, say, creatine supplements is a lot more than what you get in maybe fish and meat. But if you're already getting some creatine from fish and meat, and you don't need like this almost quick recovery or anything like that, you might not necessarily need creatine every day. And the reason I say that is I am considering taking creatine only because I am vegan. Now, what that means is I don't eat red meat, neither do I eat fish. So I'm not able to ingest creatine. So I might be better off taking creatine than, say, someone who actually eats this every day, if you know what I mean. Because if someone is eating red meat literally 7 days a week, you might not necessarily need creatine every day, if you know what I mean.
I think it's just like the protein shakes, just take what you need, don't go overboard.
And when it comes to I think what they asked is, does it increase my strength? It will eventually increase your strength, because what happens is when you take creatine, increases glycogen storage in the muscle. And so when you are, say, working out, or you are doing strength exercise or anything like that, it will almost instantly release glucose, which normally means instant energy. So you will feel almost stronger. So it's almost like you're able to if it's lifting, you're able to lift longer, you're able to lift heavier because you have that instant boost of energy.
Yeah.
And for that reason, that's something, maybe it's not for everyone as well, because if you, as you said, because of increases glycogen in the muscle, if say someone is diabetic, that might, and they already have natural creatine. You don't want to boost so much glucose, because again, that is normally, converted into the sugars, which are not good for diabetes. So things like that, you might want to also just look into. So just see how it affects you. And maybe once you've taken maybe creatine for the first or the second time, get a check, maybe get a glucose check, just to make sure it's not elevating your glucose too much. Because if it is, that could be problematic.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. There is some side effects, actually. I know someone who started taking it. They actually messaged me, say maybe 2 weeks ago, and they were like, I take, X amount of creatine. I think they take about 5 grams of creatine in a day.
Okay.
And they're like, is that too much? Or is that normal? Because they were feeling very nauseous and they had muscle cramps. And I was like, actually, that is one of the reported side effects with creatine, isn't it? Yeah. So there is some side effects with creatine. So if you're experiencing some side effects, it's worth maybe stopping, or maybe not taking, just like a medication. Sometimes it's either you're not tolerating the medication, or you're taking too much of the medication, like too high a dose. So you might want to cut it down, or you might want to take something else. So it's exactly the same with, with creatine and other supplements as well. If you're having a side effect, maybe that's your body trying to tell you, you're giving me too much of this item or the product. You need to reduce how much you're actually ingesting, or the frequency of it as well.
Yeah, agree.
Is there any other side effects that you've come across of creatine as opposed to the ones that this person I know did speak about?
No, I think that's it makes sense really when it comes to the creatine. If you take an excess of it, you may experience these side effects. With anything, if there's excess of it, you start to feel a bit nauseous, and you just don't feel good. Like it takes a toll on your digestive system. But I think what I would also say is that when it comes to creatinine, because of the way it works, it's kind of similar to protein. So again, it would lead to water retention. So feeling like a bit bloated or a bit puffy, So that's one thing as well. I think weight gain as well. So because of the way it works, you would obviously get increase in muscles. So you would, in essence, also gain some weight. The feeling of nauseous as well can also lead to, let's say, diarrhea and other stomach problems as well, or maybe even stomach cramps, because again, these things take a toll on our digestive system.
They do
when we do take them. So it is known to cause these sort of side effects. But another side effects that I think I've come across is that it can sometimes lead to dehydration, especially if someone is not drinking a lot of water. They feel so thirsty. So apart from what you've mentioned earlier, muscle cramps, these are the common side effects I will say occurs with creatinine. But nothing else.
There was talk that it has been linked to anxiety. Again, there is not really much evidence to this, but if you are feeling that maybe your anxiety is maybe a little bit more than normal, or you just feel a bit anxious after taking creatine, this might be a side effect, and maybe you should actually speak to your doctors about it. Maybe report some of these side effects to the doctor for them to sort of just check that it's not something that is underlying, and it's actually maybe whatever you're ingesting that is causing it. So that is one of the things I've heard when it comes to creatine. But I hope we answered the question as to, is it going to make them stronger, and is there any long-term side effects? But with what I always say is with a lot of, especially with things like artificial additives. When I say additives, I'm talking about supplementations and things.
Supplements,
There is
yeah.
almost going to always be ongoing research.
Yes.
So we might say today that maybe it's not going to be harmful to you. Tomorrow it will come out that maybe you should not be taking it. So what I always say is just keep doing your research as well.
Yes.
Just keep doing your research. Just make sure you know everything there is to know about the protein powders that you're taking, about the supplements that you're taking, because with limited research, there's not enough knowledge. And that means you can't be sure that what you're doing is safe or what you're doing is best, basically.
That's true. True.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, Steph, would you advise or someone to take protein powders and supplements?
So my final message when it comes to these things, I feel like what I would advise is that when it comes to supplements, yes, they can be useful, but they're not magic. So I would say before you think about supplements, speak to us, a healthcare professional, just to see whether you need it or not. Because if it is a requirement for you, maybe for instance, you're deficient in something, yes, of course, I would advise you to go for it. But if it's just like a way of filling in a void, like filling in a meal or something, or I would definitely advise you not to go for it. If you just want it to aid you in your gym or your muscle building, I would say do your research first. That's what I would say. Because as we mentioned, protein is essential for a lot of things, but these are protein supplements, do not do it in excess. We have spoken about like some of the benefits of it, but there are also some risk of it. So before you use it, obviously, definitely speak to your doctor first. But what I would always advise is that food should always come first before using supplements. So for me, if you come for advice, I would say check your diet first, do your exercise, do your weight training, and if you feel you need to fill in not replace replace your protein, but if you feel like you're deficient in protein and you need extra enhancement or something, yes, by all means do go for it. But my key thing is always go with food first. Make sure you are getting that nutrients that from your food first. Yes. And if you are going to use it, so always check the labels because you don't know what's in there. But what's your final thoughts on these supplements?
Well, you've said it really well, and you've put in such a good way, which is food should always come first. Okay, so it shouldn't be seen as a supplement because it isn't a supplement, as a supplement of food. It is a supplement, but not of food.
Yes.
It's a supplement of things that you might be deficient of. So if, say, maybe you lack creatine, by all means, you can ingest creatine. If you need creatine to help with strength, by all means, you can do that. But if you're using some of these things, so maybe you have creatine powder and you're thinking, I'll have my creatine powder and that will just replace a meal. First of all, it doesn't work that way. Creatine is not supposed to help with, it's not going to help with muscle building. It's not testosterone to start with. Neither is there a meal replacement supplement. So it's not going to replace your meal. So it's very important, as you said, that these things are not viewed as meal replacement supplements. Protein powders are not meal replacement supplements. As we said, there is a lot of things in some of these protein powders. So if you're constantly taking the same thing 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day, you can actually be doing yourself more harm than good. But as we said, protein itself is not harmful. Okay, protein is actually something that the body needs. But these supplements and these protein powders have added ingredients that you might not even need. As we said, there could be loads of calories. It could be high in calories. It could be high in sugars. And if you are actually trying to avoid some of these things, you're ingesting them without even realizing it. And it's very, very important to read all the labels carefully before jumping on the bandwagon, because people will literally say and try promote all kinds of things online. Okay. So someone says, you know, do you want to know what made me feel, or what made me recover quicker at the gym, or do you want to know what made me gain my muscle? This is what helped me gain my muscle. Meanwhile, this is a sponsored post. They're making their money. You're jumping on the bandwagon, but you've not even read the labels carefully. You don't know what it is you're allergic to.
Exactly.
That could be in these ingredients. So that is very, very important. And don't just think that because it says it's high in protein that it's healthy. Okay, high in protein doesn't necessarily equate to healthy. It could actually mean that it's actually very, very unhealthy. Maybe it has things in there that, you know, you're either going to react to, or excess of would make it worse for your health. So it's very important to read the labels. Consuming more protein than needed is, let's be honest, wasteful. Not just in money, but it's also literally, you know, just waste down the toilet, because you're gonna, you know, you're gonna release that excrete, one way or another. So I would just say, if you are consuming the right amount of protein that you need per day, that should be enough. You shouldn't need to take protein powders because it's become, one, a habit, or two, you're trying to supplement a meal. It's very, very important that you speak to a healthcare professional before you jump on some of these, you know, things that's being sold by influencers, or things that's being sold and marketed. It's very, very important to know your health status before you get on, you know, you get on protein powders and other supplements. But by all means, if you need them, go for it. If you're trying to build muscle, it's very important to do it safely and to do it the right way. So I personally would advise that you know what there is to know about the protein powders you're going to be using, or the supplements you're going to be using, to know your health, and then to go ahead. Summer is here, guys. So listen, summer bodies are here to be built. So by all means, let's build them safely.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, a healthy chat is a step towards a healthy life.
If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, drop us an email at consultationroompod@gmail.com. Our Instagram is @consultationroompod. See you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed.